College is a wild ride for young adults, and their mental health often suffers. This podcast addresses the inner battles many college students struggle with. You're listening to Normalize It Forward, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about young people's biggest mental health problems, how to handle them, and how to achieve a more resilient mind. Time to get rid of those heavy burdens and focus more on self-love and care. Here is your host, Mark Lehman.
Welcome to Normalize It Forward, everybody. My name is Mark Lehman, and we are here today to talk openly about mental health and wellness. I have a fantastic guest today. I'm super excited everybody gets a chance to meet Bob Delaney. Bob, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. Pleasure to be with you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being here, Bob. Bob is a fascinating individual and has done, honestly, the more I read about you, Bob, the more I think you've lived a few lifetimes here, but Bob's life really reads like a movie script in some ways, but it's all real. He's a former New Jersey state trooper who went undercover for 3 years, infiltrating the mob. Bob later became one of the NBA's most respected referees, officiating over 1,500 games. That's a crazy number, 1,500 games, including multiple NBA finals. But it's what came after this that truly defines him. Bob has become a leading voice on post-traumatic stress, resilience, and leadership, using his extraordinary journey to help others understand the human side of high-pressure lives. Today, he speaks to first responders, veterans, athletes, and everyday people about the power of acknowledging our story and healing through connection. Today on Normalize It Forward, Bob reminds us that even those who appear calm under pressure have a story beneath the surface, and that sharing it can change their lives. Bob, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. Good to have you here, Bob. I have to say, reading through your bio and reading through all the different things that you've done, I guess I'm wondering, where would you like to start to tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, I think that you start from the beginning, right? I was very fortunate to have the first leaders in my life sit across the dining room table, Mary and Bob Delaney. So I grew up an Irish Catholic kid in an Italian neighborhood in Paterson, New Jersey. And the school, the church, that was the center of our lives. Mm-hmm. And playing on the Little League teams and being involved there. One of the things that happened to me early on, I was a pretty good athlete playing Little League baseball, and then the basketball team had tryouts, and I didn't make it. I got cut. And so, disappointment turns into motivation. And I became obsessed with getting better at basketball. I was probably a better baseball player than I was basketball, but I kept at it because I didn't make the team and I wasn't with my friends. And that was in 7th grade. 8th grade, I played in high school, was an all-state basketball player and baseball player in New Jersey, played in college, and basketball was a big part of my life. The reason I keep saying this is that I found it to be therapy later in life. I joined the New Jersey State Police, as you said, in 1973. I followed in my father's footsteps. He was a lieutenant in the state police at the time. And all along my life, I never thought of being a trooper. It wasn't until I was a sophomore in college that I saw it as a way to serve. I looked at my father and his friends as hero types and didn't think I had what they had in them to become a trooper. And I was on a job about a year. And they try to make you feel good about yourself. You have this squad room with a little cubby hole, like you're back in kindergarten with your name on it, as if you're important. And I walked in after 2 days off, and there was a note to call Lieutenant Jack Liddy, Division Headquarters, Criminal Investigation Section, Organized Crime Bureau. This guy had more titles next to his name than I ever saw, Mark. And I grew up Irish Catholic, which means I wake up guilty in the morning. So I thought I had a problem on my hands. I thought I was in trouble. And I had a conversation with the lieutenant, and after the conversation with him, he asked if I was interested in doing undercover work. And I said, yes, sir. And over a period of time, I learned that it was the first time that the FBI, New Jersey State Police, and the President's Organized Crime Task Force out of Washington, D.C. were going to join forces. I became one of those undercover guys. I thought it was going to be a fun gig. They told me it was going to be 6 months. Every federal grant is written for 6 months. Like we were going to end organized crime in the state of New Jersey in 6 months, I guess. 6 months to the next. And that didn't happen. And the 6 months became a year became 2, and it started going into the 3rd year, and I just wanted out. We infiltrated the Genovese and Bruno crime families. I was living a lifestyle that was not my own. I'm living a dual life. I was made to look as if I was thrown out of the state police. It was a very Sopranos type life. And while we're not here to talk about undercover work, I have to share my story as to what took place.
Please. Yeah.
And while it was very good at putting away bad guys, and we put away a lot of bad people. But what happened to me was post-traumatic stress disorder. And I didn't know what was going on inside of me. And I used to refer to it as an emotional roller coaster, which is a common term. I actually would term it emotional violence inside of me. I was angry. I didn't know what I was angry about. I was like a frustrated child that I would punch a wall and put a hole in a wall. And I'm not the kind of guy that can spackle. If the car breaks down, I get out, I open the hood because I think that's what you're supposed to do. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So I couldn't fix it. So I just go down to Walmart or Kmart and buy a cheap painting and put it over that hole in the wall. And how prophetic that was of what I was hiding and what was truly going inside the four walls of my house. But to the outside, I was being told I was this heroic type figure. I did heroic work. I was a brave guy, and I felt none of that. I felt like the biggest hypocrite in the world. I'm getting all kinds of awards and recognition, and yet that's not who I was. I was scared to death the whole time I was doing the undercover work. And I had this emotional upheaval inside of me that I didn't know how to handle. So I became a student of post-traumatic stress, but I got lucky. And when I say I got lucky, one of the troopers that was assigned to my security detail after I surfaced from the undercover work had a background in psychology from Rutgers University, and he could see some things going on inside of me. For something I wanted to get away from so bad, I kept going back into it. My undercover name was Robert Allen Cover, Bobby Cover, catchy name for an undercover guy, but we weren't trying to be cute or funny. The birth records and death records are not cross-indexed in our country. And so if you go to the death record side, find a child that died at birth, same first name, same ethnic sounding last name, same age grouping. That's how we develop our persona.
Interesting.
When I got this other trooper who, his name is John Schroth, the detective in the state police who had the background in psychology from Rutgers University, started to see I wanted to get away from this so bad, but yet a couple of weeks later, I got the leather coat on. I got the chains around my neck. I got the pinky ring going. I'm kissing people on the cheek like I'm back with the wise guys, with the mob. And he was the first one that started to see something. And we'd be out on a late night surveillance. I had to testify in grand juries. I had to go out on late night surveillances, and I had a security team with me. We stopped off for a drink. And when I got in that environment, I started buying everybody drinks because that's what Bobby Covert did. That's what I did with the cover persona. And the detective John Schroth, said to me, "Hey, pal, what are you doing? That's not Fed money anymore. That's mortgage money. You're hurting yourself." And as soon as he pointed the finger at me, I did the moonwalk. I got away from him. He doesn't know what I'm going through. I don't want to hear that. I was being paraded around. I testified before the United States Senate. I gave a briefing to Congress, and everyone wanted to hear about this undercover job. And I was speaking at Jersey City Police Academy in New Jersey, and in the audience was Dr. Henry Campbell. And Hank was my college psychology professor at New Jersey City University. He and I started doing some informal therapy sessions together. He was the first one that said to me, "Bobby, what you're going through is post-traumatic stress disorder." I pushed him away. I said, "Hank, get out of here. I'm a trooper. I'm reading about this thing. It's a military thing. It's not me." Mark, this has been around forever. Sophocles wrote 2 plays about the warrior not knowing how to act after coming home from battle. After the Civil War, we called it soldier's heart. World War I, it was shell shock. World War II, it was combat fatigue or battle fatigue. And then the Korean and Vietnam Wars, we refer to it as flashbacks. In 1980, it became post-traumatic stress disorder. And from my view, we have over-medicalized it ever since because we scare people away from having the conversation. Please don't interpret that I'm saying we don't need the medical side of the house. We do. We have tremendous resources. We just have to continue to build stronger bridges between those who are the resource and those who need the resources, and to have a more common sense approach to it versus a diagnostic approach to it. And at times, like everything in our country, we swing things one way or the other. We have difficulty finding the middle in our country for some reason. And it's along the same line with this. PTSD, to me, is one of the most loosely used terms in our society. It's not fair to those that are dealing with it because I tell folks, you don't get PTSD if Starbucks gets your order wrong. Yet we use that term so loosely.
Loosely, right.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is a diagnosis, and it is a medical diagnosis. I work in the area of post-traumatic stress. My belief is that if we can keep post-traumatic stress at post-traumatic stress, not allow it to grow to the disorder, that we're going to have a better handle on finding ways to navigate ourselves through the emotional upheaval that we may be feeling as a result of some of the things that we experience in life.
It's a great point. It's a great point. I'm curious. I mean, I'm listening to just a snapshot of what you went through as a state trooper. I mean, that created a lot of this, and then you entered into becoming a referee, and I thought, psychologically, what was that like? How did that happen?
The reason I told the story about the basketball on the front end,
Yeah,
basketball was a big part of my life.
sure.
And when I surfaced from doing the undercover work, I couldn't play anymore. In my junior going into my senior year, I got Budweiseritis. Um, I couldn't jump anymore.
Uh-huh.
That summer
Uh-huh.
was a heck of a summer down the Jersey Shore, but all of a sudden my abilities changed. And so when I came out from surfacing, I don't know what it was, but the game was calling me back. And I say that I was on a street that had no rules and boundaries, and then wanted to be around a game that had boundaries and rules.
Yeah,
And
right.
so I didn't know what it was doing for me as I
Mm,
do now, releasing endorphins, tending to my hypervigilance because I had to look all over.
mhm,
All of those things, the game became therapy.
mm.
Basketball was my therapy. So
Interesting.
I say to folks, when you're going through tough times, find your inner peace.
Yeah.
Your inner peace may be bicycling or
Mhm.
running or quilting or photography, whatever it is. For me, it was basketball. And
Interesting.
so that to me is important is it's an example of what inner peace can bring.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to capture a 30-year career, but talk to me about that because I think about all of the greats that you were around, all of the personalities, ranging from kind to we'll say unkind, right, and everything in between. Is there a way to capture that, Bob?
Yeah, so not being able to play any longer, I started to figure out, well, I can get on a basketball court as a referee. There's only three groups of people that get to put their feet on a basketball floor, and it's the players, coaches, and referees.
There you
And so I
go.
started refereeing little kids' games. And this is quite a while after I had surfaced because was testifying in grand juries, everything was slowing down, and it was not as concerning to the state police for where my activities were. And one thing led to another, and I was refereeing high school ball, and then I started refereeing summer pro leagues down the Jersey Shore, over in New York City, in different parts of the state. And somebody from the stands came out, and his name was Darryl Garrettson. And he happened to be the director of officials for the NBA. Asked if I was interested, and I think it was my demeanor as a state trooper and understanding how to find problems before they start and quell them that was attractive. And this was
Mhm.
1984. And by 1987, I was hired into the National Basketball Association. I spent 25 years as a referee and then 5 years as a management. And during that time, I was the director of officials and the vice president of referee operations. But to your point, the game has changed a great deal, but interacting, it's one thing to be able to call a game. It's another to be able to manage a game and to
Mhm.
understand the personalities that are involved here. And the higher the level you go, the higher the personalities.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, I got to imagine, of all of the longtime referees in the NBA, you have to be up there on the list.
Yeah, I started in 87. Like I said, I came off the floor in 2011 and 12 to 17. I was in the position up in management in the front office. And then I retired, and then Commissioner Sankey created a position. So I'm with the Southeastern Conference now as a special advisor for officiating development and performance. And
Nice.
so the game continues to be my outlet.
Nice.
Parallel to this time, for 40 years, I've been doing this work with post-traumatic stress, law enforcement, firefighters, first responders. Then the military heard about me. I was tapped to do work with the military, spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan. But while I was doing that, I always had basketball as my therapy.
Nice. Yeah. I'm curious. I mean, you've talked about the game as your therapy, and so many athletes over the years, recently in the last 5 to 10 years have come out publicly talking about how they're impacted by different mental health and wellness issues. I guess I'm curious, just in general, how do you see athletics And how do you see the sport itself impacting people that way?
Thanks for bringing that up, because I think that my earlier statement about swinging from one side to the other and not finding the middle, when we first started really becoming societally aware of post-traumatic stress to the level that it is, we saw it as a negative. We were speaking about it in negative terms of things that were taking place with troops coming home from Vietnam, that were coming home from war-torn battle kind of situations. And that's what we equated it to. And then it was the reactions they were having. Today, I think that we talk more about resiliency and about that going through this, you can become even stronger as a result of going through some difficult times. And I think we have to celebrate the small wins. And I use Simone Biles as an example.
Mm.
If you recall when Simone Biles said that she could not participate in the Olympics because she had twisties, and we all became educated as to what twisties meant.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all like, oh yeah, wow. She's up like 12, 15 feet in the air, and then she can't get her feet on. We became understanding to what she was saying. Yeah, the 40-year-old living in the mother's basement was still tweeting out some negative comments, but that's not the overall society was very supportive. Think about 2 to 5 Olympics ago, she would have been vilified as being unpatriotic. We were not as aware or willing to be aware of some of the things that are changing in our society. That's when I talk about celebrate the small wins. We're moving the bar. This is not about eliminating post-traumatic stress or trauma. It's learning how to interact with it and how to navigate it. And that to me is important. I use an analogy, Mark. I ask people to imagine I've got the biggest balloon being held over my head. How do I get the air out? I take a pen and pop it. I get the air out, but I don't have a balloon anymore. I let it go. It flies all over the room. It goes out the door. We don't know where the balloon went. But if we're patient and willing to listen to sounds we do not want to hear, we turn it upside down. We let a little air out of the time. And that sound may hurt our ears. Maybe you may not want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we get all the air out and we have a new balloon we can use again one day. That's us with trauma. That's with us with our experiences in traumatic situations. We need to talk about it. And I tell folks, I've written 3 books. I've got numerous articles. I've been on a lot of podcasts. There are films that have been made. All my stuff's not on the street yet either. There's some stuff that's still in there, but I've probably got 90% out and I feel lighter. And I learned that the more that I spoke about it and spoke to someone and was able to get help coming back to me, all of a sudden things got a lot better in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, Bob. I just did an interview yesterday, and those really important 3 words, I need help, came out. And, to my young listeners, I think that's a real obstacle, that notion of, hey, I don't need help. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. Suck it up. All those phrases that we hear. And it's like, I don't know too many people that don't have traumas. I don't know too many people that haven't experienced things that, quite frankly, could be talked through. And so it does make me wonder sometimes, like you said, years ago, how would Simone have been, sort of illustrated to us versus now? I think the Kevin Loves of the world, and some of the other athletes in the NBA, and their stand they've taken around wellness and the concept of I am who I am, and this is what I'm dealing with. To me, has been just immense. It's been really, really impactful for young people. I know young people will talk to me about it. So when those things come out publicly, they'll hear about them. Quite frankly, I'll hear about this interview. Kids will see it and they'll email me or text me or comment about it. And I think a lot of it is for us being older than them to be able to say, "Hey, here's the path. The path is let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. Let's, as you said, let the air out of our balloon, right? And get to a lighter place so that we can enjoy our life."
Exactly. Yeah, like Kevin Love, I've had conversations with Kevin. Back in the day when we started having these conversations within the NBA, David Stern, Adam Silver were very supportive of the message that I was doing, and they gave me a title of NBA Cares Ambassador so that they were supportive in sending me over to Iraq and Afghanistan in concert with the military and a lot of different locations. I got my master's at St. Mary's College of California in leadership. And then I studied at the Harvard Global Mental Health Trauma Recovery Program. We started our studies in Orvieto. Dr. Malika is the director. And his words played in my head as you said what you were saying, because he has a very simple statement as he starts every program. Trauma is inescapable in life. Trauma is inescapable.
That's
And
right.
you also triggered in my mind about how we become judgmental of trauma. And I don't mean judgmental of me to you, but judgmental within ourselves.
Mm.
Someone else is going through something worse. We minimize what we're experiencing. Our stuff is our stuff. And it's not to be compared to what someone else is going through, or it's what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I came to grips with that and understood it, I was able to have a better approach. One of the soldiers that I worked with, lost both his legs in Iraq. And we were at a post-traumatic stress program that I was sharing some thoughts with. And he said to me, you know what post-traumatic stress is like? It's like dieting. Some of us need to lose 5 to 10 pounds, some 10 to 20, and some of us are obese. And it changes on an hourly or a daily basis.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I said, what a great analogy. I'm
Yeah.
going to use it because I've been 5 to 10 pounds since I came out of the womb. I've been overweight. And 10 to 20. And at times I've been overweight. And it didn't mean I stopped living. At times it just meant I bought bigger pants.
Right.
So it's finding ways to navigate and how do we interact with it? And our demeanor and our approach about how we do that. Just what you were saying is, how can we feel lighter? How can we feel engaged? My first peer-to-peer conversation took place with me in a mirror, not just thinking the words. I verbalized it to that person about what I was speaking. Then I got lucky again. A guy by the name of Louis Free, who became the director of the FBI, was a street agent back in the day during my case. He was working another case in New York. He introduced me to that other undercover agent. His name was Joe Pistone. The world knows him as Donnie Brasco. And Johnny Depp played him in a movie. Joe and I are still friends to this day. And I can say to Joe, we can still talk about what our experiences went through. And that's what peer-to-peer is. Peer-to-peer
Amazing.
is being able to speak to someone who's gone through a similar experience.
Absolutely.
And, we're two old dudes now. The only place I can go undercover now is the senior citizen home and figure out who's stealing the yogurt. But being able to have someone to speak to is so important.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, we live in a world, I'm really thankful for this. We live in a world where there's good people out there and there's people that want to speak to you. You just have to get to that point individually where you want it, and you acknowledge it. Right. I mean, I think that's the hard part is acknowledging.
That is a great statement. And that's something we have to be reminded. I really believe there's a lot more good than bad. And we're getting inundated with negativity. You watch TV, you get inundated with the news, and so all of this noise that's going on outside starts to bring inside of our own personal lives.
Yeah.
But knowing that there's a lot of good people that are willing to help and have tremendous hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. I work with so many athletes that if I didn't ask this, they'd probably be upset with me. What's it like to be on the hardwood with some of those legendary players?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I got to referee Julius Erving. He was ending as I was starting. And then, the Magic and Larry years and all through Michael Jordan and into the Bad Boys of Detroit and
Yeah.
all the way up to Steph. I refereed Steph's dad, Dell. Little difference. Dell had to come off a screen to get an open shot. Steph just has to get on the court somewhere and Steph's throwing it up.
Well said.
But I
well
remember
said.
him as a little kid in Charlotte sitting along the bench when his dad was playing. And I got
That's
to
funny.
referee him for 2 years before I went into the office. The greatest athletes on the planet are in the NBA, and their abilities are phenomenal, but it's still a job. And so you have to compartmentalize. Yeah, you're a fan of the game because you love the game. But when you go to work, it's about making sure that the rules are enforced and that they stay within those guidelines of the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you should say that. I've also had the thought too with athletes. It doesn't matter what level you reach, you're still a human being. You're still susceptible to everything, Bob, that you and I are susceptible to,
Yes.
right? And I think that's something that many of them have reminded us about in the last many years, that things like depression and eating disorders and anxiety and post-traumatic issues, and they're all susceptible to them as well, just like we are. And, so I think it's important, as much as some of those guys can shoot a three from the parking lot or,
Right.
jump out of the gym, they have extraordinary abilities, certainly, but they are built the same way we are, emotionally.
I've worked
And
with college athletes. I've worked with college teams where I met with the entire team because the team had such a long losing streak
mhm,
that they were embarrassed to go into the dining facility at the university because they were reading everything that was online about how bad the team was. These are areas that are important to have conversations about because these are true feelings. One of the
mhm,
things that you also triggered in my mind is that the work I do, I started to realize I do a lot of work with folks that wear uniforms, law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, military, healthcare community. They put on
mhm,
scrubs or they put on a lab coat, and then athletes. And when we put on that uniform, we kind of think we can leap tall buildings in a single bound. We can handle anything, that
mhm,
we are a little bit superhuman, or
mhm,
we're being held on a pedestal because of the uniform that we wear and the position that we hold in society. Understanding what you just said is so important. Yeah, when the bell rings, every one of those professions does what they're trained to do and what they have trained themselves to do.
mhm.
Yet when it's over, there's a human being that's coming out of that uniform that we need to have the abilities to tend to and say it's okay for them to say, I need help, or
Right.
it's not okay. I'm struggling right now, man.
That's right.
I'm in the deep end of the water and I just needed somebody to help pull me out. That's
Right.
okay to talk about that. It took me a while to get to that point, but when I did, my life changed for a lot better.
Yeah. I want the young listeners to really hear that, Bob, because, we hear these stories where, athletes, unfortunately, some of them take their lives and we're stunned when that happens. But to me, it's like there's people out there that need help. There's people out there that have help around them. All they have to do, and I'm making it sound simple, it's not, is to ask for it and to get it, because to me it's there's a lot of young people out there that need it and aren't getting it, and like you
For
said,
young
your
people,
life changed. Your life
yeah, for
changed.
your people in your audience, I'd ask them to Google kintsugi. Do you know kintsugi?
No.
Kintsugi, Kintsugi. Now, I used to call it kintsugi because I'm from Jersey, and we go for talks and walks, and we have coffee, and I have long G's and long A's. But kintsugi is a Japanese art form. What do we do in our society when something breaks? We throw it away. In the Japanese culture, say a pottery dish, they put it back together with gold and silver glues. And what I would offer to you is that while it looks different, it's still operational, it's still
Mm,
functional. And while it may not look the same, it's still beautiful.
love
And
it.
I would even argue it's stronger because it's been reinforced.
Mm,
I use kintsugi and I put that photograph up when I present of that pottery dish with the gold and silver. That's our humanity.
I
At
love it.
times we get broken. And I believe deep in our subconscious, we feel that if we say we're broken, we're going to be discarded. And when we come to understand that we can be put back together, we can be
Mhm,
stronger.
mhm.
That's the beauty of some of the challenges that come in life. There is no testimony without a test. And what is personal is universal. There's other people feeling what you're feeling. That's one of the
No doubt.
things that I
No
came
doubt.
to learn is that I'm not alone, man.
Yeah.
There's other people feeling the same emotions I'm feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. And I think, if you live life long enough, you start to realize life really is a roller coaster. You've got your ups, you've got your downs. And, as one of my mentors years ago used to say all the time, life is not a dress rehearsal. We got one chance here, so you got to do what you got to do to live it and to enjoy and experience the happiness that you can have out of life. And I think one of the secrets to that I think a lot of adults have discovered is getting the help when you need it. Really getting past, that concept. I don't know where it came from, Bob, but that concept of like, I don't need help,
Right.
like not me.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to hear you talk about that. And I think it's such I believe it's our job, as adults, older than young adults, to teach and to pass along those things that we've discovered in life, and the little secrets and tips that took us a while, but hopefully won't take them as long.
I
To
love hanging out with the young folks, right? If you hang out with young folks, you stay young.
I
And
hear you.
we go to great lengths to understand cultures in our society.
Hmm.
I really believe that each generation is a culture. And so we have to have a better understanding, right? Like you have to change with times. I used to get off a plane and look for a phone booth. Today I have a phone in my pocket. For all those that want to go look for the phone booth, be my guest. You got to stay current. And staying current means spending time with young people.
I'm laughing, Bob, because I'm remembering you referenced Superman earlier, and I'm remembering watching that with my son, and he jumped into the phone booth and changed, and my son asked me, "What's that?"
What's a phone booth?
I said, "Oh, that's another story for another day." Funny. So, well, look, I so appreciate you making the time. I mean, Bob, honestly, when I read your bio and heard about your background, I thought, man, this guy has lived multiple lives. And, probably the best thing that I read is you continue to help. You're a helper. You're a person who wants to pass along your knowledge and your experiences and your joy. And also very human, very honest to recognize, hey, not every day, not every moment's fantastic. And it's not that way for anybody. But, to me, you're a role model in so many different ways. So again, appreciate you spending time with us. Can I put you on the hot seat for 1 sec?
Sure.
One more second. So one of the things, I set up Normalize It Forward a couple years ago to really spread the conversation, and it really help, especially young people, understand how important it is to normalize wellness and mental health. And one of the things that I ask of my guests is to nominate a friend, a coworker, a relative to keep that conversation moving forward so it doesn't stop. Any thoughts as to who maybe I could interview next that you'd like to nominate?
Steve Schembaum is a friend of mine, and I will send you his information and connect you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I would offer to you and your audience, my hope for all of you is to stay healthy, stay safe, take care of one another, and take care of you too. Self-care does not mean selfish. Self-care is about being the best you can be to make the world a better place. Truly an honor to be with you, Mark.
Words. I mean, Bob, I can't improve on that. We're going to finish on that note. I thank you so much. I look forward to getting in touch with Steve. I thank you for your time, your energy, and your positivity. You have yourself a wonderful holiday season.
God bless you as well.
Thank you. Bye now.
That's all for this episode of Normalize It Forward. May this conversation serve as a reminder that you are never alone in facing your mental health struggles. There are always people who can help. To dive even deeper into our journey of normalizing one of the biggest issues young people face, check out more episodes of the show at youareheard.com. It's UAREHEARD.com. Continue gaining access to the right tools, the best resources, and the most insightful advice to achieve positivity, mindfulness, and genuine happiness.